Okay, children, welcome back to economics with your favorite teacher, me, Mr. Fritz. Today we're going to be talking about equilibrium in the supply and demand model. Alright, so today we're talking about equilibrium in a simple market. So equilibrium is going to be occurring where the demand is equal to the supply, where the amount of a product that we want to purchase is equal to the supply, the amount that the producers want to actually supply. So wherever that happens, whatever price that happens, that is going to be our equilibrium price. So right here, where the two curves intersect, this is our equilibrium price, and this is our equilibrium quantity, the amount that are going to be supplied and purchased at a particular price. We're going to talk about cookies again because, let's be reality, everybody loves cookies. So let's pretend still that we have a 50-cent price. At a price of 50 cents, the demanders, or the people that are looking to purchase cookies, want to purchase, we'll call this 100 cookies. So at a 50-cent price, we want to purchase 100 cookies. At a 50-cent price, the producers want to supply 100 cookies. And so what we end up with is equilibrium price of 50 cents and an equilibrium quantity of 100 cookies. Now, disequilibrium is going to occur whenever the price is something other than this equilibrium price. So let's say that suppliers decided that they actually wanted to raise the price to 75 cents. So I'm just going to put right here and pretend 75 cents. At 75 cents, suppliers would be looking at maybe trying to sell 150 cookies. At a higher price, there would be a profit incentive for them to make more cookies. However, at this higher price, the demanders, the people looking to purchase cookies, are only going to want to purchase 50 cookies. And so we're at a disequilibrium here. And what we end up with is called a surplus. There's 50 to 150, there's 100 more cookies sitting on the shelf than there are demanders, people that actually want to purchase that cookie. So we end up with an excess supply, aka a surplus, of 100 cookies. The way to fix this is just put them on sale. Lower the price until you can get all those cookies off the shelf. That's all you have to do. We can also go too far low the other way. If the price goes down to 25 cents a cookie, the producers, the suppliers of cookies, won't have that same profit incentive, and so they would only want to offer up like 50 cookies. They would only want to be supplying 50 cookies if they're only going to get 25 cents a cookie. Whereas us, the demanders, the buyers of cookies, we will be in the market for like 150 cookies. I would buy a lot more cookies if they're only 25 cents a cookie. And so we end up with 150 being demanded, only 50 being supplied, and this is going to lead to an excess demand, which would lead to a shortage. There'd be more people looking to buy cookies than there would be cookies sitting on the shelf, and we'd have a shortage. And the way to fix this would be to raise the price until the amount that people want to buy is equal to the amount that's actually sitting on the shelf. That's disequilibrium. Now we're going to talk about changes in price. Next, we're going to talk about what causes prices to change. A change in prices are going to be due to a change in demand. So either a shift in demand to the left, a decrease in demand, or a shift in demand to the right, an increase in demand, or they can also be caused by a change in supply. Remember, a shift to the right of the supply curve would be an increase, a shift to the left would be a decrease. When we try to figure out what's going to be shifting, when a scenario occurs and you got to figure out, well, did the supply curve shift or the demand curve shift, you should ask yourself a question. Is this something that caused a change in the amount that people want to purchase? If so, it's going to cause demand to shift. Or is this something that made it harder or easier to make the product? Because if that's the case, then that's going to cause supply to shift. First scenario that we're going to talk about is diets. What if a whole bunch of people go on diets all at once? A whole lot of people are going on diets all at once. People are trying to avoid sugar. They don't want to eat cookies anymore. Is this going to cause a change in the amount that people want to purchase? Or is this going to be something that makes it harder or easier to make cookies? This is going to be something that causes people to want to purchase fewer cookies. That'll lead to a decrease in the demand, which will be a shift to the left. So the demand for cookies will shift to the left. Remember, we're going to differentiate between the two curves. I'm going to make this D1 so I see that there's a difference. I'm going to show an arrow showing that my demand curve shifted to the left. And then we gotta label our new equilibrium price as P1, show a downward arrow showing what happened to my price, and then my new equilibrium quantity is gonna be Q1. And then I'll also show a leftover there showing what happened to my quantity. So now that nobody wants to buy cookies because we're all on diets, the price of cookies is gonna decrease. And the quantity of cookies sitting on the shelf, or the quantity of cookies being bought and sold, is gonna decrease as well. For the next scenario, what happens if the price of chocolate chips changes? If the price of chocolate chips were to decrease and chocolate chips became cheaper, would that affect the amount of cookies that we want to purchase, or would that make it easier or harder to produce cookies? Chocolate chips are an input in the production of cookies, and so if chocolate chips are now cheaper, it's going to be easier to make more cookies for the same amount of money. That's going to cause an increase in the supply of cookies, which will cause the supply curve to shift to the right. I'm going to label that S1 because I'm showing that that's the new supply curve, and I'm going to draw an arrow showing that the supply of cookies has increased. My new equilibrium price is P1. I will show a down arrow showing that the price of cookies is now lower, and a rightward arrow showing that the quantity of cookies has increased. The amount of cookies being bought and sold has increased, the price has gone lower, they're easier to make, so they're cheaper for us, and we're going to buy more. For our last example, I want to know what would happen to the price of cookies if milk, which is a complement for cookies, were to decrease in price. Since milk is a complement for cookies, we know that this is going to affect demand. If milk gets cheaper and people tend to eat cookies with milk, then cheaper milk would lead to an increase in the demand for cookies. Because I'm buying more milk for a cheaper price, I'm going to get more cookies to go with it. So the demand for cookies would increase and shift to the right. Again, I'm going to be labeling my new demand curve as D1. And yoink. I'm going to label my new price as P1. I'm going to label my new quantity as Q1. And I'm showing that my quantity has increased and the price of cookies has increased as well. I'll actually do one more. For the real last example, I want to talk about how income would affect the purchase of cookies. Let's say that income decreases. If income decreases, does that affect demand or supply? Something that I need you to keep in mind. Income is going to be tied to demand. I want you to think of income as the money that you take home. Your income is the money that you actually have at the end of the month sitting in your pocket ready to be spent. Wages, however, are what the business or the company, whoever you work for, has to pay you in order to get you to do work. Wages are going to be affecting supply. Demand is going to be affected by income. So if income were to decrease, and cookies are a normal good, which I'd say they are, if income decreases, people are going to be purchasing fewer cookies. The demand for cookies is going to shift to the left, and now we're going to have a lower price for cookies and a lower quantity of cookies being bought and sold. Remember, income is the money once it gets home, and that's what you take home in your check and what hits your bank account that you can actually spend. That's going to affect demand. Wages are what businesses pay people for their labor. So wages are an input cost. Income is going to affect demand. Wages affect supply. So that's been equilibrium price and quantity. We're going to keep working, and on my next video, I'll show you some more examples and work through some example problems with you. Goodbye, children.